Today, we are back with another AI prediction for the 2028 presidential election. Hit the like button and subscribe if you want more content just like this. I asked ChatGPT what they think is going to happen in the presidential election with JD Vance and Gavin Newsom. They say that Republicans enter 2028 with a fundraising advantage. Vice President J.D. Vance has been tapped as the RNC finance chair and is mobilizing high-dollar donors. Silicon Valley figures like Peter Thiel and Elon Musk are on his network. By mid-2025, the RNC has raised roughly $80 million to the Democrats' $15 million and a $65 million gap on cash hand. In contrast, Gavin Newsom is just beginning an unofficial 2028 rollout and faces a depleted Democrat donor pool after recent losses. This suggests Republicans have a more robust ground game and ad budget heading into the campaign, which tends to favor Vance in swing states. Demographically, Newsom can rely on California's deep donor base, but national Democrat fundraising is relatively weak. Vance's fundraising is unprecedented as RNC chair, he's hosting fundraisers asking $100K plus per donor, far exceeding typical midterm amounts. Newsom is emphasizing issues to excite the base, but has not shown comparable fundraising haul. The betting markets also show, as of right now, that a June 2025 Emerson National poll shows a generic ballot tied among named contenders. Vance dominates GOP polling, and Newsom is slightly behind in some of the 2028 Democrat polling. And we even see here that Polymarkets assigns Vance 27% chance to Newsom's 18% in the 2028 general election betting odds. The state trends suggest that we see fast-growing Sunbelt and suburban states are becoming more competitive, and we may be focusing on North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona more in 2028 over the Midwestern states. And North Carolina's population has doubled since 1970. Arizona's quadrupled since then, and both are trending purple. Meanwhile, states like Pennsylvania and Michigan are growing slowly or shrinking, making them less pivotal. In concrete terms, the swing states in 2024 and 2020 are likely to be Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Nevada, Florida, Texas, and perhaps Virginia and New Mexico, rather than the entire old blue wall. And we see that historical context has been provided here. And really, that's when we go into the state forecasting here that ChatGPT provided. So we're going to be going in terms of order by, alphabetical order, or possibly even just by safe states. So, Utah is obviously in the safe Republican column at a pretty big margin, R plus 41, according to the model here. The state of Idaho ends up falling in the R plus 36 category in this forecast as of right now, according to the AI. We can see here, comparing to the last election, those are big shifts towards Vance in some of these red states. So that is going to be quite interesting to keep note of as time goes on. Another thing that we are going to be seeing on the matchup here is states like Wyoming, Montana, the Dakotas, Kansas, Oklahoma, all of Nebraska, including that first congressional district, will all be in the safe Republican column, with Nebraska actually being R plus 27 in this matchup. So Nebraska second may be in for a little bit of a surprise there, in my opinion. We also see, for example, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Indiana, and South Carolina, as well as Alaska, are all above the 12-point threshold for the forecast today in this video, according to the ChatGPT model. Looking at some of the safe Democrat states, California comes in at about D plus 29. The state of Washington comes in at D plus 25, and the state of Oregon comes in at about D plus 21. So there are big shifts in Oregon and Washington and in California towards the Democrats from 2024. They end up performing significantly better than years past. So that is quite interesting to take note of. Those are very, very big shifts. Colorado ends up being about D plus 13 for Newsom in this forecast. Illinois ends up being, according to this, D plus 25, which I don't think would happen in real life. But again, this is just according to the actual model itself and what it predicted. So we're going with what the model said. Maine at large is about D plus 9. So that ends up putting the state roughly with one safe Democrat district and one likely Republican district. We also see, for example, in the state of Massachusetts and Maryland, Massachusetts and Maryland are very big margins, 37% margin for Newsom in Massachusetts, 31 in Maryland. In DC, we have D plus 78 for that, as well as in Vermont, we have, give or take, about a D plus 48 margin in Vermont, which is like a humongous margin there. And then the state of Connecticut, we have a D plus 17 margin. In Rhode Island, we ended up having about D plus 36. So like that's literally not even close at all, which again, that is inaccurate. I don't think that would happen, but that's what the forecast model is showing. Even Delaware is about D plus 20, which is somewhat realistic. New York ends up being about a D plus 31 point margin for Gavin there, which is quite interesting. I really don't think that would be the case, but that's currently what the AI is showing. Hawaii is in the Democrat safe margin by a substantial amount of D plus 30. And then Iowa and Ohio are both about R plus 8 and R plus 11. So Iowa is about R plus 8. Ohio is still R plus 11, which is similar to the last election. Florida ends up coming in at R plus 4 for whatever reason in this forecast. And then the state of Texas, you see about R plus 8 in the state. So that ends up giving Vance about 219 to Gavin's 179. In the state of New Mexico, you're going to see D plus 14 there. So it actually votes to the left of Colorado, which is quite surprising. And then the state of New Jersey, you do have about a D plus 21 point margin there. So the state is basically no longer competitive. And then in the state of Virginia, we do end up having about a really big margin there, actually. It's a D plus 19 point margin for Newsom there. And then in New Hampshire, you got about D plus 14. So it seems like he's on track to win this. But again, then looking at Minnesota, for example, we can see right here in the state of Minnesota, only a D plus 5 margin in Minnesota for Gavin Newsom, according to the AI. And then looking at the state of Georgia, we have it about R plus 1. It's about like a 50,000 vote margin for Vance. So he like narrowly wins the state. In North Carolina, Vance wins it by about 4 points, so about a 200,000 vote margin, according to the AI model. And then in Arizona, he wins that state by about 4 points, almost by about 130,000 votes in this one. And then in the state of Nevada, Vance is like ever so slightly winning it by a till margin. It's really, really close. And actually, technically, Georgia would also be till because it's under 2 points. But they're both very, very close states, and it's very narrow, very narrowly going into that tilt Republican category. And then as for Nebraska's second, I mean, if the states are plus 27, I would expect Nebraska's second to actually flip Republican in the scenario, despite not that being the case in real life. I don't think Nebraska's second will flip Republican unless they redraw it, and then it'll probably end up being like a likely or safe Republican district. Then with looking at the Rust Belt trio, Wisconsin coming in at about a roughly give or take 70,000 vote margin for Vance. It's about a 2-point margin, electorally speaking. And then we see in the state of Pennsylvania, about a 50,000 vote margin there, only R plus 1. And then in the state of Michigan, we end up seeing about a D plus 2 margin. So almost in 100,000 vote win for Newsom in Michigan. And so the final electoral map, according to ChatGPT, for the 2028 presidential election does have Vance winning with 298 electoral college votes to Gavin Newsom's 240. So he is projected to win. And you can see here all of the margins that I showed in this video are in this. So you guys can actually see this is technically me pulling this out of nowhere, but this is what the AI actually returned. In the next video, I may try to refine the question a little bit more if I do a video like this again, just to see. It'll give me a different response. It says here the margins are narrow in the toss-up states: Georgia, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Notably, Vance wins most southern states and plain states. Newsom wins the coast and northeast, and a few swing states tipping slightly are. The electoral map would lean Pennsylvania reflecting the slight polling edge to Vance. However, the race is close enough that minor shifts or third-party surges in battlegrounds could change the outcomes. Our state count shows that it's the same turnout as 2020, adjusted for population. California shows 17.5 million votes, Texas 12 million, etc. We based on this forecast on recent polling, expert analysis, historical data, Vance's fundraising power, Emerson polling, Polymarket polling, 2020 results, which they should have included 2024 results. So that's why the map probably looks a little bit funky as of right now. But if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. And I will see you guys in the next video.